95% of people who start with a GLP screw themselves up because they get dosing advice from the doctor who doesn't even understand anything about it, doesn't understand anything about peptides, learned nothing about peptides in medical school, and literally went to a weekend seminar, right, to prescribe it. And on top of that, the people that are getting these bad prescribing instructions are also not being told by those same clinicians that they have to change their life because they're being sold to them as magic bullets, right? Oh, take this GLP or take this GLP-2 or this GLP-3 and lose 30 pounds and you don't have to do anything and eat ho-hos and Twinkies and sit on your ass. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the problem. And again, that's 95% of the industry. So as I said in that book, and I continue to say when I talk about this, that people like me, clinicians who are smart about peptides, which thankfully are getting more and more now, our only job, truthfully, is to teach the consumer, the patient, that they're tools, they're great resources, but if you don't have the lifestyle attributes, tenets, principles attuned and dialed in, they're worthless.
Peptides. We have to talk about peptides. They are just everywhere. And so, of course, I connected with a person who has been rejected and canceled by the medical establishment, by the mainstream health influencer establishment. So, because he puts personal responsibility for our health above peptides and has a very specific recommended way of using them that is one part of an overall approach to health. And he totally rejects the medical establishment's approach to using peptides. That's the person I want to listen to, and I know that you do too. So Jay Campbell is here. He is the founder of BioLongevity Labs. He has been in this space for 25 years. He got in early due to an injury, so he started needing hormone therapy at a quite young age, and so has grown along with this industry and is a deep insider with deep knowledge of the peptide space. And he shares that with us today. And then we get into a very different type of terrain. We get into the more energetic consciousness piece that I'm just trying to think how to say this. Okay, here's what I want to say. Jay is very, very clear and strong in his idea that we need to take complete and total responsibility for our own personal health. I share that with him. I'm a little softer in my delivery, but I do share that principle because I do think personal responsibility and personal agency is the foundation of everything. That being said, it has been my experience that going really hard on personal agency triggers people because they hear it as self-blame. They hear it as self-judgment. So before we get into this, especially for my beautiful, sensitive female listeners, please translate sovereignty and agency into responsibility and not into self-shame or self-judgment. Each of you is on your own journey, and each piece of progress that you make is special and important to you, and no one is judging where you're at. So one person taking responsibility might look very different from the other. However, when we insist on making the external world the reason for our troubles, we lose all of our power, and we need the power. I talk a lot on this podcast about building up our energy so we have enough energy to live a long, healthy life. But also, the real reason is so that we have enough energy to be empowered and not let external systems dictate and not farm out blame for our situation to things we can't control, thereby leaving ourselves powerless. So please keep that in mind during this conversation. And know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're doing a beautiful job. I couldn't be more honored to be sharing this world with you. Okay? And if you would like to follow up, the Reverse Aging Club is on Substack, Reverse Aging Club. jaycampbell.substack.com. Come and follow us there. There is a free option. You don't have to pay for it. Come and follow us there and join our live weekly Thursday calls. Especially if you feel triggered by this, I'll talk you off the ledge. It's going to be good. Okay. It's all going to be good. So here's my conversation with Jay. People, it's a powerhouse talk. We went all the way, and Jay became very vulnerable and shared a lot of intimate details about his personal transformation and the personal and the spiritual work that he's doing in his own life. And I just want to honor him for that and thank him for that. He does have a very strong egoic presence, and thank goodness, because he has channeled it toward the light. And we appreciate that about you, Jay. You can find him at jaycampbell.com, CAMPBELL. Enjoy. Jay Campbell, welcome to the Reverse Aging Club.
Meredith, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me on. Really honored to be here. I know this is going to be a fantastic conversation.
It's going to be really fun. And I'm excited because, as I just mentioned, we focus so much on light and energy on this podcast. And you have an incredible peptide business, which is a biochemical supplement. And I wanted to have you be the person to talk to us about that, because you also really understand energy in a way that I think will really resonate. But I wanted to start with the peptides, because I feel like in the last 3 years, it's just from starting with Ozempic all the way through to, people I really trust. And I think peptides are really important. And it's like, I'm feel a bit lost. So if you could sort of walk us through, I'm just going to use myself as the example. Sure. And sort of you explain to me what's going on along my journey with this topic. Awesome. So Ozempic came on the market, a few years ago. And I have an innate distrust of pharmaceuticals. On the other hand, if it's helping people and making their lives better and could be a bridge to a better life, great. Someone in my family, type 2 diabetic, very overweight, was put on Ozempic. I'm like, okay. And then I started noticing other people in my life who are not diabetic and not overweight going on Ozempic. And I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So starting with that drug, what is it? And what's happening with that particular brand?
Yeah. So for your audience, to establish my clarifications.
Yes. Credential us up.
Exactly. So I have been using, as you know, 30 therapeutic peptides since 2003. It's crazy to think that I go that far back, but I started therapeutic testosterone in 1999. So that goes back 4 years prior to that. And I get most people who are familiar with me online, which, maybe your people don't know who I am, which is awesome. It would be better. But I got kicked in the testicles playing in an adult men's basketball league at 29, got worn out. Couple weeks later, started feeling like absolute dog crap. And I went to my PPO doctor. At the time, I was a sales rep for the Los Angeles Times. I was 3 months from turning 30. And the guy that I went to was like, look, I'm going to refer you to an endocrinologist because this is not normal. You had like the testosterone levels of like an 85-year-old geriatric. So I went to this guy, and to make a very long story short, he ended up being like a Harvard trained endocrinologist. His name was Dr. Raymond Scruggs. He was an absolute genius. And I was destined and fated to meet him in my journey in this current incarnation. And he put me on therapeutic testosterone. And 8 weeks later, my life was transformed. When I went to see him for him to take me off, I was like, dude, you're not taking me off of this. This is the most incredible thing. My cognition improved. So I'm now 30 years old and 3 months. And I now just became this like voracious student of hormones, again, word didn't exist then. This is in 1999, 2000. But I started being a biohacker. I was like, a lot of people think of me as like the OG biohacker because I'm 55 and I've been in this game now for close to 30 years. But I started looking into all these different delivery systems on hormones. And again, as I said, 4 years later, to fast forward, I started using peptides. The first peptide I used was called ipamorelin. And so if you fast forward to now, me and you on this conversation, I've written 10 books. I've lectured all over the world at medical conferences, masterminds, biohacking events, et cetera. And I'm just very, very blessed to meet amazing people like yourself. And, along that journey, I've been using peptides that entire time. So between my audience and speaking and writing and authorship and all of that stuff, without a doubt, I've probably been influential in informing millions of people, in that 20 plus years of using therapeutic peptides on how to do it correctly. And clearly I've written 2 books on it. So I definitely consider myself, is probably one of the most knowledgeable people. I know the clinical space feels that I am the most knowledgeable person. I think you and I were talking in Vegas that 95% of people that speak about peptides have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. I mean, it's insane how crazy the marketplace is.
And I think that's why we all feel so confused.
Yes,
and you brought such clarity to it with your experience.
That is 100% the reason. I always tell people that be very cautious where you get your information from, because most people started using peptides within the last 2 years. In fact, there are people now, I know you know this, that start using peptides and are selling them 2 months later. It's the most insane thing that I've ever seen. And, and we're going a lot of directions because I want to get back to GLP in a second, but like all of this has happened because the FDA took we can't do anything about peptides because we can't patent them and make money like the rest of the pharmaceutical interventions. And you, by the way, have every right to be, just have your doubts, because the pharmaceutical industry is not of the light. It is of darkness. It is of money. It is not for health. It is for profit. And they are the first to tell you that. And, I know plenty of people that work in the highest levels, of the pharmaceutical manufacturing giants. And while some of them are the smartest people in the world from a formulation and biochemical, creation standpoint, they are not for health. And it's about how much money they can make. So as you said earlier, some of these tools are amazing, but if you are using them in the context of the way they want you to use them, which is how they train the doctors, you're going to be really screwed up. And that's why I said in my book, which came out in February of this year, called Metabolic Awakening with GLP-1 Peptides, again, 95% of people who start with a GLP screw themselves up because they get dosing advice from the doctor who doesn't even understand anything about it, doesn't understand anything about peptides, learned nothing about peptides in medical school, and literally went to a weekend seminar, right, to prescribe it. And on top of that, the people that are getting these bad prescribing instructions are also not being told by those same clinicians that they have to change their life, because as you know, they're being sold to them as magic bullets, right? Oh, take this GLP or take this GLP-2 or this GLP-3 and lose 30 pounds and you don't have to do anything and eat ho-hos and Twinkies and sit on your ass. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the problem. And again, that's 95% of the industry. So as I said in that book, and I continue to say when I talk about this, that people like me, clinicians who are smart about peptides, which thankfully are getting more and more now, our only job, truthfully, is to teach the consumer, the patient, that they're tools, they're great resources, but if you don't have the lifestyle, attributes, tenets, principles attuned and dialed in, they're worthless. And again, if most of the people who are not being educated on that, who start these things, they go really high start, go higher, whack out their receptors, have face muscle collapse, butt muscle collapse, back muscle collapse, all the horrible things you see in the mainstream news, have all the side effects, stop eating, have thyroid damage. I mean, hair falls out. I mean, I could go on, right? All of those are true side effects from these medications, talking about GLPs, but none of them have to be experienced by any end user or patient if they understand in context, like how to use them correctly. And again, using them correctly, we can talk about it if you want, we don't have to, but it's microdosing them. And it's, as I said, when I spoke in front of everybody in Vegas before, I was rudely interrupted by that absolute idiot. And by the way, what's funny about that is what we're talking about in a nutshell. The clinical industry does not understand what they're even talking about, neither how to prescribe them, right? Like they have this misinformation, like that guy.
So just to clarify, type 2 diabetes is genetic. Okay. So, all right. I'm just, anecdotally, I could look around in my life of who has that and say, yeah, that's not true. Okay. So just to clarify,
sure.
The GLP-1s that are prescribed, say, if you just go to your standard GP,
yep,
they will prescribe you something, Ozempic or something like it.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's Ozempic.
They will prescribe too high of a dose.
Correct.
And they will not help you. They will not support you to put in all of the other lifestyle changes that you need to have a healthy body.
Exactly.
And so then when that dose maxes out, they increase it, and then you end up with all these side effects.
Exactly. And again, as a doctor, just like that guy, whatever his name was, why would they want you to get healthy? Now you're not a patient.
Right.
That's how it works. And so,
right. But they're taught, it's not their fault.
Exactly.
And that was, I mean, just for the audience. So, so Jay and a physician we were all at a mastermind together, and Jay was talking about, I think you were answering my questions about what's Ozempic actually. And you were saying that the most important thing is for people to take personal responsibility for their health.
Exactly.
And change their life 100%. And eat well and exercise and go outside and get sunlight and do all of these things. And without that, it's worthless. And this physician stood up and said, no, but it's not their fault.
It's unbelievable.
And you were like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was awesome.
Like, stop. I gave him 2 opportunities to not embarrass himself, and then I just eviscerated him because I've been dealing with that for literally 15 years of my life. Same thing, when you lecture. And as you said at the very beginning of this, and we were talking off air too, exactly, the medical industry is built around a fallacious, argument that people become unhealthy because it's due to genetics, or it's just due to their lot in life.
Aging, which is why this podcast is now the reverse aging podcast. Because I've reached a point in life where everyone around me is being told, "Oh, go on statins. Normal. Do this. It's aging. It's aging."
Yep.
False.
100%. Yeah. No. 100%. I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, I'm 55 years old. And I'm the living embodiment of that. You see my wife. My wife is also in absolutely amazing shape. And literally we are, in resistance to that statement. And as I always say, and I've been saying this for 20 years when I was even younger, you're only as old as you feel. And you feel your age based on your activity, and obviously your intention, your mindset, your light, all that has effect in it. But to go back to GLPs, if you do this, to get where we were, to leave right off, if you do this correctly, they are the greatest pharmaceutical interventions in the history of pharmaceutical science. I know that because we have 3 IP products that we've brought to market. Each one is in excess of $1 billion. And we, in 3 months or so, they're going to come to us and say, this is what we offer you. One of our products is called Clotho. And I was talking about that, of course, there too. And Klotho is the most studied longevity protein in existence. Billions of dollars in R&D is going into it. And my chemist has already made it. Like, the game's over. Like, you can't catch us. We're way in advance. We have a patent. It's like now 17 months old. And it's being looked at in a phase 1A, that's what it's called, study right now to reverse CKD, which is cystic kidney disease. And you understand, it's actually polycystic kidney disease, but you understand that affects 17% of the people in the world by the time they're 55. And if this study, what we're doing right now, which by the way, it already has, it demonstrated the reversal of this disease and this condition, which by the way, is just the narrowing of the, what is it called? The phonometers in the kidneys, which makes people not be able to have to go on dialysis. They can't pee. They can't hold their water. They can't hold their nitrates and their liquid and their electrolytes and all that stuff. If you can reverse that, it's worth 10 to 20 to 30 billion dollars, right? Like we already know that because we've already had people lining up telling us. So it's super cool that we're involved in all this stuff. And the key is understanding like how to dose these, again, tools, education tools appropriately so that people can use them for their whole life and never have side effects and only, optimize, their aging process, so to speak.
Wow. Okay. So you have a drug in development and you're doing the full like FDA route with this thing?
No, so we're not. So the good news is, they will, but the good news is like with research molecules, everyone has a First Amendment right. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, depending on what country you are in, you have a First Amendment right to research on yourself. So we are building all of these as research molecules, but funding studies that get them into the patent pathway that if a pharmaceutical giant or even an obesity company, I mean, I think I was telling you in Vegas, we're even doing animal husbandry studies, right? So if a beef and a cattle company wants to come and they want to improve the life of their, animals, their steer, they can go that direction too. So we've set it up so that we're pretty much foolproof in that we can still serve the community of people who want to research on themselves. Because Clotho literally reverses kidney disease. So anybody who right now is like in their 60s or 70s and is like told, hey man, you got to get a transplant or you're going to be on dialysis forever, you could literally take this. And if you're not that far along, completely reverse it. And even people that are far enough along will probably get to a point where we'll know how to dose it to get them to reverse it completely. So again, it's a game changer. But for you and me, it lowers our biological age. So if you don't have any, health issues and you're taking care of yourself, and that's a big thing because most people are not. But if you are, and you take Klotho, it's like literally lowering your age. So it's like all your cellular, biological, and organ systems are getting younger. And as I was saying, for people that have been taking it, my wife and I have been taking it since August of last year, which was the very beginning. Now, again, our chemist had done animal studies for close to 2 years before he started doing it in humans. And then he did it on himself for 6 months before he gave it to us. But it's insane. I mean, as soon as we first started taking it, it was like we were brand new to having sex. Like everything is better. You have sensitivity. My smell improved. I think I talked about my vision. I used to have fighter pilot 2010 vision, and then I couldn't see farsighted at night. Stopped wearing my glasses. Don't have to wear my glasses to drive. So it's literally making your biological cells younger from a cellular functional standpoint, all the cascades and all of that stuff. So we've now been on it. Yeah, we've been on it now since, again, what is that, August, 6 months. So we've been on it for close to 10 months and everything has improved for us. It's truly amazing. And I honestly, I don't think I'll ever go off of it. You only have to take it once every 2 weeks. And yes, you do have to inject it. But again, it's just a 32 gauge insulin needle. So, you don't feel it. You can inject it IM, you can inject it sub-Q, but it's an absolutely amazing molecule. And then the other one that I definitely want to mention, which is probably going to be the one that's the biggest impact one, is called FLGR242. And that is a recombinant follistatin. And yes, I'm going to say this, and it's not going to be funny. I mean, it's funny, but most people don't believe it, but it does burn fat and build muscle at the same time, which, as you know, in the exercise field is the holy grail. Look, there's been people doing this for 20 years. They've been creating follistatin molecules. Everybody's seen the giant bull, right? The big muscular bull. And they're like, oh my God, if you could inhibit myostatin, which is like the governor of muscle production or muscle creation on the body, you can make bulls like that, right? So there, the theory was like, if we just find the right myostatin inhibitor, we can make people leaner and more muscular and obviously less fat. Well, our chemist did it. And that's also been in circulation since December. And we have thousands of people around the world who are using it and getting absolutely insane results. Like a woman can take 1 milligram a week and go on a GLP and absolutely prevent muscle loss. Like even if they're lazy and they do nothing and they do everything wrong, they can still take it and prevent muscle loss. That's how effective it is. But if you do everything right and you use it, you just get leaner and your body composition improves and you just feel better. And by the way, there's 0 side effects. The only side effect that people might experience with that product is if you don't inject in subcutaneous fat, you inject like in the muscle, the binder, which is a 19-day, it's called an albumin 19-day half-life or construct, can expand in the walls of the muscle and cause a stinging sensation for a couple days. Like that's the only side effect. And again, we've got people now on these products, 8 months for Clotho and 6.5 months for FLGR, and everyone raves about them. And it's why, we're, like I said, in development talks with some of these giant pharmaceutical companies, to do some great things for the world. And again, our chemist he should probably win the Nobel Peace Prize at some point for this, but he's also got some other stuff coming. He's got a thymosin beta, an extended half-life thymosin beta, which will be the most powerful healing peptide, polypeptide in existence, because a lot of people are familiar with like TB 500 now, which is thymosin beta 500, and in BPC 157 body protective compound, which are really known healing peptides. He's basically taken that peptide TB 500 and reconstructed it so that it's 10 times more effective at 1/10 of the dose. So you could take like one probably tiny microscopic shot every month or every 2 months, and your body will like be impervious to being injured. Like if you're older and you got wear and tear. Yeah. You got wear and tear in your joints from lifting and just being active.
Yeah. And like to people who are like, what? This sounds crazy. Like insane. Like my understanding of aging is that our, metaphorically speaking, okay, not the metaphor I use is that our cells are not getting the proper information. Correct. They're not reading information properly.
Yes. Actually,
so you talk about a microscopic dose having an asymmetric effect. That makes total sense. It's because you just need enough to give your cells the proper information.
Exactly. And that's what our chemist has done. I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think if we go back like 20 to 30 years and we really start looking into when performance enhancement became, in vogue amongst professional athletes, soccer players, track and field competitors, it was always about changing the molecular dynamics by using like anabolic steroids or, I can never pronounce that word, but erythropoietin, which is like the red blood cell stimulator, like the stuff Lance Armstrong was using to win because, he cheated in every single race he was ever in. But I mean, a lot of pro athletes are cheating, right? They're obviously the best at what they do. And so they take these things to enhance their performance. But the truth is that we've now come so far with peptides and bioregulators and some of the things I was just talking about are really technically small molecules, that we can now, like you said, we can completely change the rate at which cells divide and the rate, because if you really want to get technical, how we age is really, it's theoretical, but it's twofold, right? Like our telomerase, which is the gene that regulates the telomeres, as we get older, telomerase just stops expressing in our cells. And so our telomeres stop lengthening and they start shortening, and that accelerates age. And then you also have, because of that, you have what is called reactive oxygen species, or RAS, and free oxyradicals, right? So once the telomeres stop lengthening and start shortening faster, the biochemical byproduct of that is those cells, the reactive oxygen species and the free oxyradicals. And you can't get rid of them like you could when you were younger cellularly, right? So we now have all these tools, these peptides, bioregulators, and small molecules that actually lessen that, if not shut that down. Now, I don't want people to think, again, because this is important, that using these tools and then not doing anything is actually going to accelerate life, because on the same side of that equation, or the opposite side of the equation, I guess, is we also live in a contaminated world, and modernized living with plastics and GMO food and the shit they're spraying on us like bugs in the sky and all this other stuff that's happening is also enhancing our rate of cellular decay and increasing the rate of cellular decay. So knowing that, you have
bright light at night, screens.
Dude, exactly. Yeah. So knowing all of that, if you do those things, and we can get into those things more as we get into spirituality, consciousness, light, etc. But if you're doing those things and you're using these things, you will, without a doubt, in my opinion, live into your 120s, 130s, 140s, maybe even 150s. And I honestly mean robustly. And listen to this.
Seems like a really long time,
dude,
Jay.
I'm going to blow your mind when I tell you this. So Monica and
I want to go home.
Before I saw you in Vegas, Monica and I were in Greece, and we were in Greece for 3 weeks. I spoke at a mastermind on peptides in Corfu, Greece, which is one of the most amazing islands in the world. And after that, we were like, you know what? We're not coming over here for 4 days. We're going to go through the Greek islands. So we went to Santorini, we went to Mykonos, and we went to Rhodes. And while we were there, we met people, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but we met people that were literally living into their one of our drivers' father was 113 years old, and he watered his plants every single day. He was virile. I mean, he had so much energy. It was insane. The mother, his wife of the guy, our driver, died when he told the story. He was like, yeah, she died 2 years ago. She was 110. So here's where I'm going with this, is that these people on the Greek islands are living this long and they don't exercise a minute. Now, they are active. They're mentally active. They have productivity from every single day, because they, like the guy, he gets out and he waters his garden for 4 hours. So his purpose is the garden, but he clearly has an active mind. So if you if you understand, and by the way, why are they living that long in Greece? Because Greece is the cleanest island, probably one of the cleanest Mediterranean islands in the world. They eat nothing but very, virgin olive oil.
Right.
All the food is
they eat
grown.
local. They're outside all day.
There's no chemicals.
They're moving around. They're social.
But there's no chemicals. They have no processed food. It's everything is cooked in olive oil. They eat lamb. They eat off the land, right? It's, I have a statement. If God didn't make it, you probably shouldn't eat it, right? So everything they eat is from God, from source.
Yeah.
And they're just literally living with a purpose. But if they're living to 113 years old and they do no exercise, imagine what we can do with our knowledge, with our exercise awareness, with our, just call it resistance training awareness, cardiovascular training, and then taking all these chemicals, again, in a microdose so that we never, ever, oversaturate or super physiologically, overdose our body. We can easily live into those ages. And my goal in teaching this stuff is to get people to start adopting a mindset that they should be able to live like this into their 70s, 80s, and 90s and far beyond. And I honestly think that, again, we're in the infancy. The only thing that can derail this is us blowing ourselves up, which, as you know, is a coin flip. I mean, it's, because that's how amazing the stuff that's in the pipeline. And I wrote about this in the book in February. I was like, everybody's so excited about tirzepatide and retatrutide and these GLP-2s and 3s and all that. And I'm like, guys, this is shit. In a year, no one will even care about these for what's in the pipeline. So I know what's coming and I know what is already possible right now. So if you're willing to change your life from a habit standpoint, and we can just define that right now, it's very simple.
Yeah, let's do it. So your framework, and I love this and I appreciate it, is there is a place for these tools within a wider foundation of life.
Exactly. It's a cosmology.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's hear your cosmology, Jay.
Yes. So very simply, everything starts in the mind, right? We are nothing more than our thoughts. That's 100% truth. We are vibrating particles and oscillating waves of spiritual energy. These physical avatar bodies are housing that energy, but they are vessels in this level of third density reality. And in this third density reality, we get this one avatar body in this one incarnation. So if you want to maximize it, this is what you do. First, obviously, you have to have, positive thoughts. You got to wake up every single morning grateful and excited about your day. The second thing is you have to have some form of very consistent, again, call it ruthless focus, repetitive exercise. The best exercise is what the person adheres to, right? Like They got to do it. But in theory, when you start looking at physiology, anatomy, and biomechanics and all that stuff, resistance training builds foundational muscle, which, remember, muscle is what builds bone mineral density, and bone mineral density is obviously building anatomical health so that you can resist gravity as you get older. Because think about that. That's a very important thing for people to think about. When you see old people bent over, they can't resist gravity because their bone density is so weak. So gravity is literally tilting them over as they get older because they don't have the bone mineral density strength because they've been inactive and sedentary their whole fucking lives to actually resist the forces of gravity. So resistance training, obviously, whether you do calisthenics and push-ups and sit-ups and standing squats, or my recommendation is, machines, especially as you get older, machines are actually better than free weights when we get into our 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, because we don't have the synovial fluid in our joint caps to withstand, shearing force from dumbbells, barbells, deadlifts, squats, etc. So I think that all of those are great, in your late teens, 20s, 30s. But as we get older, we have to become much more educated and smart and knowledgeable when we train, because we just don't have the pliability and the energy or the elastic energy in our muscles and again, our joints and our tendons as we get older. So you have to train smart. And then
what about Pilates?
Yeah, so bone bearing Pilates, hot Pilates, stuff like that is amazing. Okay. So I was literally going there, but so after the resistance to build the muscle, and remember, we have to build muscle. We don't want to look like bodybuilders, but we have to build muscle because muscle is the greatest deterrent to all the diseases of aging, because the more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitive you are. And remember, insulin resistance is what causes death. And every single disease in the world, even in the brain, the body, I mean, type 2 diabetes is a form of insulin resistance. Type 3 diabetes is neurological disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, Lou Gehrig's, everything. All the people that get Lou Gehrig's, Alzheimer's, or dementia have progressed from undiagnosed type 2 to type 3. And what the very common occurrence of this, and again, you're not going to have anyone in the medical community talk to you about this because they don't understand it. But when you see skinny, fat people who are in their 60s and 70s who never got diagnosed with diabetes because, again, they're skinny, they're not fat, the doctors don't care about body composition. They just look at you and they're like, oh, you're a type 2 diabetic because you got a big belly or you got a bunch of fat in your back. But very skinny, thin, waif-like people, which is the majority of Americans, are actually high body fat. They're actually obese. They're literally 35 to 45% body fat because they've never lifted. They've never done any exercise. So those people are pure insulin resistance. And the next step is type 3 diabetes, which is, again, some form of neurological disease in the brain, which it's either dementia or Alzheimer's. There are so many people in America right now with undiagnosed early onset Alzheimer's. It's insane. And again, these are people who don't exercise. They've never lifted weights. They've never done cardiovascular. They're the sit-around crew, which is, again, the majority of Americans. Now, there's a lot of people who are obese, right? Especially in the flyover states, because these are people who have been blasted with glyphosate. They've been blasted with atrazine. They're not exercising and they're a mess, right? But that's very, very, people need to understand that just because you're skinny in appearance physically doesn't mean that you're not obese, because it's all about your body composition. And so again, that's where the medical establishment misses this. But from resistance training and cardiovascular training, stretching, foam rolling, hot Pilates, yoga, those are all amazing. Like in my last 2 years, I've gotten deep into stretching and a form of yoga. Like I don't lift without spending 15 minutes before I lift, right? So I have to stretch my body. And I only, by the way, just so you know, I only go to the gym to lift weights 3 days a week. That's tops. All my other exercises in my home, on we have a really high, one of those 40-degree incline treadmills that my wife uses, which is like insane to use. It's so intense. And then I have 2 different exercise bikes. And then, we have tons of biohacking tech and stuff in the house, but really that's just tech. And that's just for people that are already advanced. Like you really just need to walk on an incline. And again, for most people, that's the best form of exercise. Because if you're walking uphill, there's no intense stress on your joints or your tendons. There's no ballistic, explosive movements that can cause damage or tears or anything like that. And then the next 2 best are obviously stair. If you have a Stairmaster, or again, on an incline on a treadmill, or just an exercise bike, or even a rower. They're called ergometers, but if you have a rower, those are really good too. And again, I tell people, if you're running, and this is important, if you're running on hard surfaces in your 40s and 50s, you are literally setting yourself up for hip and knee replacements in your 60s and 70s. You cannot do that. If you're going to run, you run on the beach, you run on clay, because there are people that have communities with asphalt, very soft. You cannot run on streets. You cannot run on treadmills. Listen, all the people that run on streets and they run 20, 30 miles a week, every one of those people, by the time they're 60 or 65, they're on the pace to a hip replacement or a knee replacement. I've seen it in thousands of people. I counseled my dad for 30 years to stop. He didn't do it. He has both hips replaced and both knees replaced, and he regrets it. We were actually joking the other day on the phone. I was like, yeah, you should have listened to your oldest son a long time ago. Yeah. But so that's
right.
That's the foundation. And then from that, if you really want to get advanced, and I recommend today people should get more advanced because
this audience is advanced. You go there. So go all the way, Jay.
So many people today, as you know, who do have those fundamental principles dialed in. And again, the exercise, the mindset, the protein, the nutrition. Let me just go a little bit further there before I go advanced. So nutrition, I'm not one of those people that says you got to eat a specific way. The only way that you should eat is to remain metabolically flexible. Yeah. And metabolic flexibility really just means that you eat relative to your energetic demand that your unique body deals with every day. Some people that lift weights, they got to eat carbohydrates to replenish muscle glycogen. People who are like ultra endurance triathlete people, which I don't recommend doing because that puts so much wear and tear and stress on your body, but you can eat like a keto diet or a carnivore diet, less carbs, higher fat, etc. But you have to understand how you fuel your body relative to what you do. So I think personally that most people should adopt a fasting lifestyle. I've written 3 books on fasting. My favorite form of fasting is alternative day fasting. And what that means is on the day that you lift weights, you eat, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. The next day, if you're lifting on an every other day schedule, some people lift 2 days in a row, take 2 days off, whatever. The days you're not lifting are the days you fast. And you fast as long as your body feels comfortable at fasting. Women, during phases of their luteal cycles and stuff, can't fast as long as men. That's a biochemical and that's an understood biological fact. Can a woman fast as long as a man and train themselves to do it? Of course. A woman can do anything that a man can do, but it probably goes against their biology. But most people will benefit from a 16 to 18 hour fasting window on days that they are not lifting weights. And so if you do that and you do that, say 2 or 3 days a week, I guarantee you're going to be much healthier than people who are not doing that because of 2 reasons, autophagy and hormesis, right? Mm-hmm. So when you don't go without food, your body is actually literally performing a cellular fumigation. And again, getting rid of those things we talked about earlier, reactive oxygen species and free oxyradicals, or glycolated end products are another one. But that's what's ended up happening. And so again, if you work on building that consistency where it's like, hey, I eat, relatively unrestrained 3 or 4 days a week, and the other 2 or 3 days I'm fasting, you're going to be very healthy and you're going to live a lot longer than people that are not doing that. So that's kind of my metabolically flexibility. The only other thing I'll speak about nutrition is that the heavier you are, so if your goal is to get leaner, the more insulin controlled you have to live. And what does that mean? That means you regulate your carbohydrate consumption. And again, if you're fat, you're metabolically, call it insulin resistant, deranged, whatever, however you want to look at it. You really have to control your carbohydrate intake. And let's say you're a woman that's 175 pounds and you should be 130. You got to lose 45 pounds. Or you're a dude who's 250 and you should be 180, right? Like you're going to have to change your carbohydrate intake until you get to your goal body weight. And obviously, you're going to have to do everything else, and we're going to get to the advanced stuff in a second, but that is very important to learn that once you're heavy and you're a little bit insulin resistant, which is, automatic if you're heavy, you got to reduce your carbohydrate intake and you got to fuel your body carbohydrate wise, like around your training, right? So pre-workout, post-workout, and then no more carbs. Or if you are eating carbs, you got to eat very leafy, green, highly regulated, like lots of roughage and fiber, stuff that goes through your system very often. So that's very important to understand living insulin control. I write about all these things in all my books. So if anybody wants to listen to this podcast and they want more information on this, you can just go to my website and you get the book for free. It's a PDF and you can
It's jcampbell.com, CAMPBELL.
Thank you. Exactly. And I think the domain, we just launched a new site, but I think the domain is free-info. So jcampbell.com/free-info, and you can get all my books downloaded for a PDF. Now, advanced strategies, if you're ready to go into them, would be obviously peptides, hormones, and bioregulators and the small molecules that I talked about. But nobody needs the advanced stuff until they have the other stuff dialed in. And the problem is, Meredith, is we live in this absurd social media society, false reality, fake reality, holographic reality, whatever you want to call it, where people think that all the things that are the advanced tools are magic bullets.
Yeah. And, so and that they should start there.
Yes. And that is disaster 101. You're going nowhere. Not only are you going nowhere, but you're going to be now coming out on social media and saying, Jay Campbell's a scam artist. He's so full of shit. Right.
So because, and I see this all the time. Anytime I do a pod, I've talked about some amazing, amazing tools and everyone's like, okay, so is this the one? And I'm like, nothing is the one. No. There is no one. It's like, we're all different. There are foundational pieces. We put those in place. Then we layer on things that we know to be helpful.
Exactly.
So we just need to stop with the holy grail.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no holy grail. but it's fun. And I would add circadian rhythm regulation to your list. Yeah.
We'll get to that. But number one is to be an ethical human being. That's number one.
Yes.
Number one is
back to what information are we feeding ourselves and behaving it with a lack of integrity? That's information to our energetic body.
The only goal as a human in a physical avatar, third density body is to polarize positively, which is to serve others from a standpoint that you're not attached or, perceiving an outcome for doing it. Right. And again, we can choose at very many times in our life in this level of reality, we choose to serve self, and we have to, right? To shit, to go to the bathroom, to have sex, to procreate, all these things. It is in survival. It is service to self, but we can eventually rise, quote unquote, above this desire to just serve self, to serve others. And once you understand that you can choose that path, it's just the knowledge of, okay, how can I become an ethical human being in all my decisions? And I think
and I love your point, because it's not one or the other. Right. I also, especially with women, but men too, they get so focused on service to others that they don't take care of themselves. We don't pay ourselves, we don't rest enough, we don't say no enough, and all of that is part of the balance.
Exactly. And that's the point, is that, like you said, it's not all one way. We are going to serve self a lot in a third density body. I mean, this is the realm of choice and polarity. And so you have to figure out both, and you can't figure out that serving others is the ultimate goal until you've served self enough to realize that it's better to choose to put yourself in front of others. But it's not easy to figure out. Like I tell people this all the time, like, it's a path, and the path, is constantly evolving. And it's like, here's an awesome story of like how hard it is to figure out if you're serving self or serving others. Is like, if somebody comes to you, all right, and you have a sandwich, and they come to you and they say, hey, can you give me half the sandwich? And you're like, sure. And you cut it in half. But you're so bad at cutting in half that you cut it like it's 70%, 30%. And you give the 30% to the other person. In your mind, you're like, I just served others because I gave them half of my sandwich. But in truth, you served self because you gave them the smaller piece. So if you were serving others, you would have actually just innately been like, oh, you know what? I fucked up cutting this, but I'll give you the bigger part and I'll take the smaller part because it's the right thing to do. It's the correct choice. So many people don't understand that. Like my wife and I got into it about that the other day. She was like, yeah, but if I didn't want the bigger, it's like, that has nothing to do with it. You are the intender and the chooser of the doing, right? So, but it's very weird, like in these laws of energy and getting into that kind of stuff. Like you really have to practice, because you're going to think that you're doing it one way. Like I told you off air, like, my whole life, this past weekend was the reality that it's my ego. I mean, my ego was fighting that doctor, because I've been in resistance to those idiots, messaging me that way all the time. And so I'm just like, I have this wall, this veil built up of like, no, you're an idiot and I'm going to prove you wrong, and it's like, the point is you don't have to be that way, but our egos are riding us so hard. And again, they've been imprinted into us since the beginning. And so it's like finding that awareness to get to the point of being vulnerable enough to admit it, and honestly, I mean, I'm 55 years old and I've been doing a lot of spiritual work for a long time. And that wasn't until this past weekend that I could see that as accurately as I do. So it's very interesting to walk this path. But getting back to the advanced tools, that was an awesome rabbit hole. But the advanced tools, when you're doing the other things, really do make a huge difference. Like I can tell you, as I said at that little mild presentation that I gave, is that at my age of 55 now and my wife's age of 54 now, having a mastery of the awareness or the education of using the tools correctly is the difference between like living a life on complete cruise control, eating whatever you want, whenever you want, versus not understanding how to use those things and having to live like a Spartan. And so that's like, again, to look and feel the way we do. So it's like, it's your choice. There are definitely people out there that are going to be like, oh, dude, Jay Campbell's a drug dealer. He recommends all these different chemicals and he has no idea what's going to happen to him long-term because there's no studies, blah, blah, blah. And then the same people that are living like me, who are literally eating once every 3 days, and everything is a sacrifice and everything is a hard work and a struggle. And, so there's totally different ways to skin a cat. But the way I look at it is like, hey, we have these great tools, as you said at the very beginning, these pharmaceutical interventions. Most people don't understand how to use them because, again, the pharmaceutical company doesn't want, or the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to understand how to use them. They just want you to use them as much as possible and keep using them, right? But if we learn how to use them correctly as tools and have the educational foundation to use them whenever we need, you don't ever have to rely on them, and you don't have to use them all the time. And you can just use them for a couple months out of the year, and it just dramatically improves everything so much that you can just go on cruise control. And I mean, listen, I'm 55 now, and I literally can maintain a full 6-pack and be in my absolute physical best condition at all times without worrying about what I eat. I mean, I'm telling you, if you followed me around for 3 days, you'd be like, there's no way. and look, I don't have the best genetics. I'm the first to admit, like, when I competed in my late 30s and early 40s, and I competed for 4 years as a male physique athlete. In fact, true story, I was in the first ever male physique show.
Really?
In Las Vegas in 2011. Yes, it's a true story. But, I won 4 shows. I think maybe 5. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It's a past. But I never had great genetics. But what I had was an incredible knowledge of how to use these tools in the context of health and longevity, never abuse them, never put my body at risk. And so I always played the long game. And so now at 55, with so much better technology and tools with these, obviously these things, and we can get into them again. I kind of talked about the ones that are most important probably to understand. I don't have to do that. I mean, I like I said, like, today's a fasting day for me. I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursdays, I fast. Saturdays and Sundays, we usually fast, but if we have family event or dinner or get together or barbecue, you just start eating at 2, 3 o'clock. Who cares? Whatever. It's not regimented. I'm not living like a Spartan, but like today I won't eat until at least 4 o'clock. And sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to do something on the weekend that I'm going to take my shirt off around, and I want to be even a little bit leaner and feel even more energetic. And so I maybe won't eat that till 7 or 8. And maybe I'll eat at 7:30 and I'll have a protein shake with essential fatty acids. You see what I'm saying? So metabolic flexibility, I give my body the adaptability to eat the way I want to eat relative to the desires that I have and how I want myself physiologically to perform and look. And so you, as an individual consumer, patient, however you look at this, whether you're a functional health person watching this or a doctor, you can teach your people how to do this. And it's very, very easy. But again, you have to live a very controlled, very functionally aware life. And so few people do. And by the way, this is relevant. There was just a huge study that was released on X. They followed, I want to say, 50 sets of twins from 1972, might have been 1982. Is it 72 or 82 till 50? And they looked at them from a standpoint of what is the ultimate decider of how they make it in life. Like, their friends, their financial standing, blah, blah, blah. And you know what the number one thing that no one would ever get this. I wouldn't even have got this, but the number one thing that determines whether or not you will be successful in life is your ability to observe restraint. So it's discipline. So it's delay gratification.
To not react to every stimulus.
100% it's not reactive, to not be reactive. But if you really think about it, because you're right, because science doesn't look at energy, but that's what it ultimately is. But it's like, even kids who are 4 years old or 6 years old, if they delay going for the cookie, the ho-ho, the apple hostess pie, remember those, by the way? That determines their success in life in everything. And if you really think about it, it is reactivity versus proactivity.
Yes.
So it's like, do I delay my desires for that sensitivity in my brain, that dopamine spike for whatever that food gives me? Or do I even delay the reward, for cashing in the lottery ticket or going to buy the lottery ticket instead of working hard to get somewhere? So you're right. So that is what is determining our success in life, is our ability to use restraint and obviously self-discipline to delay gratification. And no one would ever say that, but literally that is the difference between success in a third density body and not.
Yes. Yes. And it's, am I able to practice restraint with food? Am I able to practice restraint with engaging in nonsense, bullshit drama that, and that, I think social media has been a real test of our consciousness on that, because it's so easy to feel like we need to engage, even if it has nothing to do with us. Or, and I'm sure you've experienced this, I have, people are saying stuff about you or about your organization. And I'm like, I still don't engage. And the only reason I'm still here is because I just don't engage with anything that I don't think will have an effective outcome.
It's beautiful.
And if I go down the wrong path and I'm like, oh, this is headed in the wrong direction, I'm like, I'm out.
Meredith, that's so
Cut
beautiful.
it off.
That's so honestly beautiful that you said that, because this just happened to me. Remember I told you off air that I stopped. I'm completely dark on social media now. I mean, I have teams. I mean, look, I'm not in a lot of places, right? Like they've deleted me and suppressed me everywhere, but I do have a backup account on IG. I have an account on X, which is my primary, people that follow me. They deleted my YouTube about 6 weeks ago for nothing. I had that happen too. Well, they created a Substack account for me now, which I have absolutely don't even have access to it. So I don't know what's going on there, but somebody, a major influencer, A-lister, went after me 2 weeks ago. And I had no idea because I don't have access. But of course, everybody in my circle, bro, they're texting me like, how are you going to let this go on? Blah, they're sending me screenshots, and the only person I wrote back, which was a very close inner circle friend, was like, dude, I can't click on it because I don't have access to the social media. So it won't matter. So he made a copy of the video and he sent it to me. I watched 5 seconds and I heard Jay Campbell, and instantly I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Who cares? They're just spouting off into the universe. It doesn't matter. But for the next 3 days, all these people are like, bro, what's gotten into you? Why have you not responded? Why have you not put up, resistance or said it's not true or anything? And I just told them, like, the 3 people or 4 people that I actually responded to wouldn't stop because they're in my private membership group. I said, guys, it doesn't matter. It's not the path that I'm on any longer. They can say whatever they want. You know what our products are about. You're using them yourself. And what's crazy, Meredith, is that people, dude, this is how lost most of our society is. And by the way, I do want to talk about AI before this podcast ends, because I think it's the end for us if we don't fix how we use it. But I had people messaging me via email, which again, I have EA, I don't see it unless it's sent to me. And by the way, I don't check emails now either, except one time in the day in a 30-minute period. And that's curated. But they were sending me these messages that were like, hey man, I love FLGR 242 and Clotho, and it's made these amazing, amazing changes in my physique and my body. And then they go into the guy's video and say, but I'm really concerned. Should I stop? Imagine being that insane. And that is what social media has done to people. They're literally looking for the external savior, signifier, even though they deep intuitively already know that what they're using is amazing for themselves. Somebody with a clout or a name or a brand says, oh, you probably shouldn't do it. And they just instantly cancel themselves out. It's scary how social media has changed the landscape for people who are not in control of their thoughts. And that can segue us right into AI, because I think know people.
We need to be grounded in ourselves. We need to trust ourselves. And if we decide to trust somebody, then we trust them until that person breaks our trust. But having another influencer talk shit about someone we trust is not that person breaking our trust. That is, I don't know what it is. It's something else. And we need to really test our level of discernment and figure out who we are and who we want in our inner circle, whether it's personal through podcasts or whatever. To get through what's going on in the world.
And that's very well said, by the way. This is awesome podcast. So many people, because again, we were talking about this off air, they don't have the discernment, and they're not allowing themselves, at least anymore because of AI, to sit with their thoughts and to think like, do I want to speak this way? Do I want to react? Do I want to choose to respond, etc.? And I swear, Meredith, where I'm going with this. They're literally allowing AI to do it for them. And that to me is the end of humanity as we know it, as conscious, free thinking humans, discerning humans, because let's be honest, the brain is like anything else. If you stop using it to discern, to critically think, to respond, out of love, it won't work anymore. And very, very truthfully, this is what I'm seeing. And it really is concerning to me because I mean, look, I'll just say this and be very honest with you, because I'm sure you're seeing this now too. If some person sends me an AI email or an AI, WhatsApp or an AI Telegram, I delete you. Like you're not serious enough to have a conversation with me. I'm not judging you. I'm literally saying to you, if you don't have enough respect for me to send me an actual real message that your brain utilized, then I don't have enough respect to respond to you because you are not AI. You are a human being. And that's what I'm seeing so much now. And it's so frightening. And, again, we can only control our vibration, right? But like I do sit with my daughters and I tell them every day, you cannot do this. Under any circumstances, you cannot do this. Do not do this. Do you understand why you cannot do this? And it's so scary, Meredith, because so many people are doing it.
Yeah. And it's seductive. Mm-hmm. It's like I have conversations with, I use AI with discernment and I will, I will talk to it and it'll be like, well, actually, la, la, la. And I'll be like, no, no, stop it.
See, I won't even do that. My team is using it to create content, but I don't want to go into it because, I mean, look, from a hyperdimensional standpoint, AI is not positive. And it is definitely a tool that can be used for positivity. But if you're not using it as a tool, and this is my argument, most are not. They're using it to think, to create.
Right. And that's the same as what you're saying about peptides.
Same thing.
Tools. These are tools.
Same thing.
These are not replacements for living.
They're not holy grails. They're not easy buttons. Exactly. But again, we are just in this world right now where the dark side, if we can call them that, the hyperdimensional negative service to self beings want us to be outside of resonance. They want us here because when we're here, we are food. We are literally energetic food for them. That is absolutely a fact. And people don't understand this. And more people have to become aware of this because as you said earlier in the show, it's a choice to be food or not. If you're focused on living and vibrating up here in these realms, you're not food. And that's literally a universal law. They cannot fuck with you if you are vibrating in these frequencies. They cannot. In fact, they don't even care. You taste like shit to them. That's like biting into poop if you're vibrating in these frequencies. And that's what people really have to understand. And they just don't, because again, it's very hard. I mean, this is a very deceptive realm. And until we wake up to the reality that it's a choice to become an ethical human being, we're going to go down here a lot. And like you said, the vibration of social media is victim. That is the vibration. They teach people to be victims.
You're a victim and you're dumb and you don't know. So let me tell you. Tell you.
Listen, I watched the other day a video. It wasn't on social media. Where was I? I was with a bunch of people. We were on a call. I don't remember what it was, but it was this black kid. And he was like, dude, it was the most amazing thing ever. I wish I had it because it was actually, we were watching it on the Zoom call. And so I don't have access to it. But it was this black 23-year-old guy talking to these like 18 or 19-year-old all black students in this like black caucus it was a black university. And he was standing there telling them, because they were all victims. They were all coming from like, you don't understand, the white man has kept me down and I'm owed money. And they were all very educated, right? But just completely like leftist brain, I get mine, I deserve more, blah, blah, blah. And this guy was like standing up to them as like, coming from a place of like sovereignty and resonance. And it was only like a 4-minute video, but it was one of the most profound things I've ever seen. I wish I would have asked the guy for that link because I wanted to see it, but like it's that proved to me, and not that I didn't know it, we already know it, but like it's a choice to be coming from a vibration of resonance or a vibration of dissonance. I don't give a shit how you're born into the world, poor, rich, abundant, prosperous, or lacking, and all the things. We still have a choice to change our frequency with our thoughts. And obviously in third density, actions are huge too. Intention and action are huge, but like all it is, it's just a simple mindset shift. I'm not coming from a place of dissonance and victimhood anymore. I'm coming from a place of accountability, personal sovereignty, and resonance. And when I do that, my entire life will shift. And from there, obviously, because that's the first move, as Dr. Hawkins said, that's like crossing the line of, what is it? He called it the line of, it's courage, but it's basically the line of integrity. So once you get across the line of integrity, I'm empowered, I'm sovereign, I'm accountable, I'm personally responsible for everything that happens to me. Now it's like, okay, the further path is, am I going to be a good person? Am I going to choose to do the right thing as often as I possibly can without putting my physical existence, in a place of like, oh shit, I might die, right? Because that's the thing, the ego has to be harnessed and restrained, but it does keep us alive in this level of reality, right? You can't be walking down a busy street, like, oh, I'm blissed out, and you turn the corner and you're done, right? Like, so you do have to balance and harness the energy of the ego, but you can't let it rule your life like I have. Like I'm telling you, I mean, I'm very, very vulnerable. I've never said this before on anybody's podcast. So thank you for bringing this out of me. But like, I literally realized this past weekend that my ego has been running my entire life on autopilot. And I was a conscious being even while that was happening, but it was always about like, you got to compare. I have to compare myself to you. And it's just only been 6 days, right? Because it was like last Saturday that this happened when I had this awakening. And my life has changed immensely in the last 5 days. And like I told you, my coworkers, my partners are like, dude, are you okay? I sent them a message 2 days ago. I should read it. I am going to read it because I wouldn't put this out anywhere, but I want to read this message.
Okay.
This is so profound. Hopefully I won't cry, but I sent this to all of them and they were literally like, it took them, most of them, a day to respond to it. But so this is the message that I sent out. I said, oh man, I get all choked up saying this. I said, hey, blank, a quick but meaningful message from me to you. I want you to know I love and appreciate you, and I am deeply grateful for our relationship since day one. I know it's not easy to work with me or any of us as partners together or individually. Lots of things have likely been said between each of us or about each of us at various times during the ups and downs of this incredibly volatile and transient business. Since beginning this deep spiritual work with blank, my coach, in early January, my life has vastly and dramatically shifted for the positive. In that happening, I've had to realize and accept where my ego imposter, not the authentic me, was imprinted into my consciousness and visible in my words, thoughts, feelings, and emotions with you. Many of those were not from the real authentic me, and I want you to know this. As you know now, apologies are mostly meaningless, and identifying the non-ethical imposter forms of me and working to eliminate them from my life is my ultimate and most desirable long-term outcome. It is important for you and really all of the partners to know now I have chosen to walk a completely different path based on choosing to be an ethical human being and serving each of you and really everyone I interact with at my highest and best capacity. This has all clicked for me mostly in the last week, and hence the reason I am sending you this text now. I know these are just words, but you have my sincere promise you will see this in my words, thoughts, and actions over the next couple of months and hopefully for the rest of my life. So I sent that to all my partners, and I mean, it was really hard to write that, because I am the visionary of our company. And, even saying that, like there's an ego self-important statement in saying I'm the visionary of the company, but that's how they see me and that's how they look at me. So like by me doing that and sending that, it takes me to be vulnerable and have courage. But at the same time, it's like, I'm doing this to help them because it's not about me anymore. I figured it out that I've been a fucking idiot, and I've been using my ego, which sometimes was probably beneficial. But for the most part, looking at it from doing this work now, it's like, dude, you don't have to be that way. You don't have to do that. So but now I realize my goal as an ethical human being, if I can choose to be that person, is to teach others the importance of being similar, not proselytizing, but acting that way. And then hopefully they change. And like I said, that's the greatest awareness is the more I change, the more other people change from observing me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And
you're welcome.
That was a brave and bold move.
Thank
and
you.
It also is inviting accountability because they now have it in writing that you're 100%. Not going to be an asshole anymore.
100%. No, 100%. And look, we're always an evolving work in progress.
Oh yeah.
Having those thoughts and realizing who we are, we're still going to have days where we're not our best selves. We're going to say things, but
and that is a good point too, because there is also a strain of perfectionism running through a lot of us. Right. And it's like, and it's like, so what? Just like, keep going.
It's what
move on. It's fine. We're going to fall off.
It's totally
we're going to get derailed. We're going to be a little mean when we shouldn't have been. We're going to do the thing we said we wouldn't do. It's okay. Just keep going. Forward momentum.
Honestly, it's what makes us us. And you can't, the one thing I've been, and again, I know you do this too, but the one thing that you really have to work with is when you recognize your deficiencies and these things that, again, just call it this ego imposter running the show for so long, you can't sit in shame. Because you want to sit in shame
a trap.
Thinking like, holy shit, what kind of a fucking asshole was I all this time? Where it's just realize it's like, hey, okay, cool. A blessing that I realize this now and I'm seeing beyond this and I'm the observer. But I don't have to shame myself. And dude, that's where most people fall. That's
because that's the booby trap.
Exactly.
It's like, and that's I think why a lot of people don't even want to look in the first place. And why I would, I deferred. I can't look at that because if I look at that,
everything
I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm dead. There is no room for error.
That's exactly true.
Why I was built like that or why I'd like that, who knows? Who cares? But it's like when you're in a safe enough space that it's like, okay, I can open the door. I can look at that. I can acknowledge that I'm human, that I made mistakes, that I did things I regret, and I still deserve to exist.
100%. And beyond that, so like if you adopt the mindset of I'm now, so I call it my coach, she's like the flat game board of life is living in the matrix, paying our bills, accomplishing, achieving, making money, self-importance. But the big game board of life is becoming an ethical human being and choosing to become an ethical human, right? And so in choosing to become an ethical human being on the big game board of life, 3 things must. You've got to be fearless. Number 1, you have to be fearless. You cannot be in fear. You cannot compete on the big game board of life if you're fearless, have any fear. And then number 2 is you got to have ultimate and utmost love and trust of self, which really is just incredible self-confidence. Some people will think that you're cocky, but it's just really, it's true love and trust of self. And then the third thing is the actuality and the knowing of everything is happening divinely as it is intended, always and in all ways, right? And almost no one walking the path gets to that level of awareness until you have your dark night of the soul or your come to Jesus moment. A lot of people contemplate suicide or they just have complete collapse in their life. Everything unravels. But you do have to get to those 3 things. So it's like, if there's anything that I could summarize on this amazing podcast, it's like, if you're going to walk and play on the big game board of life, it's number 1, you have to be fearless in everything. Fearless, meaning you're not worried about a growth on the back of your neck that might be cancerous. You're not sitting there thinking, fuck, I got to get a colonoscopy. So you're fearless. And then the second is maximum love and trust of self, which is ultimately the utmost self-confidence in your ability to create at the highest and best in this current level of reality. And then obviously number 3 is just the awareness that everything is happening as it's supposed to. And you are either in resistance to that awareness or you're in flow. And flow is just like, okay, bring it on. Allowance and acceptance.
I wonder what's happening next.
Yeah. I wonder what's happening next. Exactly. Do you watch the show? Dude, oh my God, it's such an insane show. With Billy Bob Thornton. What's it called? The Landman.
Landman, yeah.
That scene when he's on the freeway and all the cars start flipping at him and he's like, what do you got next? And then the plane comes over and flips the top of it. That's the greatest scene, I think, in the history of movies for what we just talked about, because you're just like, and then the camera just flashes in the background as the top of his car gets ripped off and he's down below it. And then, then they show the camera and he comes up as the plane is landing on the freeway. Dude, I seriously shook for like 30 seconds after I saw it, because I was flying and I had all of them downloaded to my phone. And I was like, wow, like whoever is writing whoever is the director, or not the writers for that show are so spiritual. That was like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Ever. I was like, this is the most, I never saw anything like physiologically materialize those thoughts into reality where you can like understand it.
Yes. Yeah. No, the perfect visualization of all of it. No, you would, the creator of that show, what's his name? Taylor, I think it's Taylor Sheridan. He was on Joe Rogan and they talked for like 3 hours about all this stuff. You probably love that.
Are you serious? I never knew that. I got to watch that. That show is absolutely one of the greatest television shows in history. And truthfully,
it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
Every single actor and actress is the living personification of the person in our current reality. It's incredible. They must have sat there for like 6 months and deeply thought on like, who do we want to go to? Like Demi Moore is like the perfect person to play that position.
And I love this conversation too, because we can be a little, I'm like a little like, oh, Meredith, you're going to watch television, like blah, blah, blah. But when you watch like high level entertainment from a high level of energy, you get a lot. It is fun. You get a lot out of it. Like, I love that show.
My wife doesn't watch any television. The only television that I watch every now and then is a sporting event, and it's usually with my daughters. Sometimes we'll watch a movie together. But like, somebody told me to watch that show about 1.5 years ago, and I didn't watch it.
They knew you well.
I didn't watch it because I just don't watch TV. And then all of a sudden, one time, somebody was like, the same person messaged me again. He goes, bro, have you not seen it? And I'm like, no, man, I don't watch TV. And he was like, please, for the love of God, watch the show, because he's a spiritual person like me. And so he was like telling me without telling me. He didn't want to give it away. And so, dude, when I saw that part in that movie, I was like, holy shit.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. So it's out there. They're giving us ciphers if we're blessed or lucky or fortunate enough to find them. But you're right. Like, most people they just gloss over that. They're not doing that.
which is fine, except that like there's lots of fun stuff out there.
Exactly.
That we could, and like, let's end on that. It can be fun. That's where I'm at right now.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is. It is fun. That's actually the blessing, is if you wake up every single morning with the idea that life is grand and that it's such a blessing to be alive. My wife is even way more, you should do a podcast with her too, because she'll blow your mind. Honestly, she'll blow your mind, but she's even more into that. She's like, wiggle your toes and your fingers and sit, and just be so appreciative, and where I'm more a logical, intellectual person. But you're right. Fun, we didn't speak that, but fun is where you have to place, right? Because again, we're a spirit in a physical body in third density. And it's like, what would be more enjoyable than just having fun? Nothing. It's being fun. Like you said, like literally energetically being playful, like being childlike, and just experiencing everything that happens to you and just being like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah. And there it is. That is, in a nutshell, reverse aging. That's it. Like, let's take care of ourselves and have fun.
Exactly. Meredith, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was absolutely amazing. Well, this is one of my favorite podcasts. I can't wait to clip this.
Oh, thank you. It was so fun. I loved meeting you. I loved your energy, you know, that, and we need that energy. Like, you know, I think it's like, we don't want to have gurus, but we do want to have people who have an energy that can affect us and fire us up and fill up our gas tanks and be connected to people like that. And you have that. And it's a great, you know, you should be called the visionary because that's what you are. It's not an ego thing. It's just how it is. You know, but you have that. And unlike other people who have that, you have tempered it with some very serious spiritual growth. So I see you, Jay, and appreciate all that you do and bringing these great, you know, bringing these products in and in a way that makes sense. You know,
well, Meredith, it takes one to know one, and you brought out the best to me even on this podcast today. So let me know how I can actually serve you at even a higher and greater capacity than today. But you have incredible energy. And like I said, I definitely want you to talk to Monica because I think you'll probably even have a better podcast.
Oh, I'd love to.
Even more spiritually advanced.
She's wonderful. I loved meeting her.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. And we'll do this again. I'm going to have some regulars on this show. It's going to be a hangout.
I would love to come back. I mean, again, you're just very calm and very balanced and very centered. And like I said, if I can help you in any way beyond this today, thank you. And just ask. It's done. The universe will make sure that it's done immediately.
Thank you, Jay.
Of course.
Well done. You've made it to the very end of the episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate having you here. You make it the whole thing worthwhile. Come and join the club at reverseagingclub.substack.com.